Thanks so much for joining us for another episode of Ask the Expert North Texas. I'm Kristen Diaz.
I'm David Rankin. Millions of Americans are dealing with a lot more sneezing this season. It's not that they're sick. They're dealing with allergies. It sure seems like this year has been worse for most people when it comes to dealing with these allergies. On today's Ask the Expert, we're joined by Dr. Ashleigh Halderman. She's an ENT expert from Parkland Hospital. She is in the KRLD Zoom room. Dr. Halderman, thank you so much for taking the time.
Well, thank you for having me.
So is it our imagination? Are allergies worse this year?
They're pretty bad. I think it's hard to measure from year to year if they're worse or not, but you can just take a look outside right now and see pollen, yellow coating everywhere and know it's not a good time to be allergic.
Yeah, absolutely. And, here in North Texas, it's been ranked specifically that DFW has one of the worst allergies in the nation. I mean, I'm working from home today and I've got my allergy my allergy medicine right now that I'm dealing with, because it seems like anytime the weather changes, which is every other day here in North Texas, it seems like something is blooming.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And I mean, it really is, I think, a really long, so the big allergen in the spring that's blooming and pollinating right now are trees. And North Texas has a lot of different types of trees that are native to this location. And so and some of them start earlier in the season and some of them progress on later into the season. So for the next, for the past few months, the next several months, it's going to just be pollen galore. And then we have no reprieve before we transition into the grass season, which is summer.
Why is it that some people are susceptible to allergens and others aren't this time of year?
It's really complex, actually. So we think that there's some genetic components to people who kind of become allergic, but that's not kind of the clear story. It's not 100%. There's a lot of theories out there, actually, and I can get into them more if you want me to, but suffice it to say, we just don't know.
Yeah. Is it true that depending, some people could have never dealt with allergies their entire life, and then they move here and then boom, they find out they're allergic to something, or not a true allergy, but they're irritated by something in the air?
Yeah, I mean, it's always possible when you move to a new location. It takes about 2 growth seasons to become sensitized to the local allergens. So if a person's coming in and having symptoms already and they've only been here for less than a year, I say to them, you may go on to develop allergies, but I wouldn't recommend allergy testing until you've been here for 2 years. But, you were getting to a really good point, which is that things in the air, not just allergens, can be irritating to the nose. So humidity, heat, temperature, air quality, air pollution. There's a lot of really interesting studies coming up about how aggravated pollutants make the nasal lining and how that causes a lot of symptoms for people. So just because you're having symptoms of allergies, it's not necessarily an allergic process at sort of the molecular level. Symptoms are exactly the same. A lot of the treatments are the same. But to your point, yes, a lot of non-allergic things that are maybe seasonal can impact you like allergies.
Wow.
So how can you tell the difference if you're sniffling and sneezing and coughing is because of allergies or possibly a cold or a flu?
Well, cold or flu is going to have a very limited time that it's bothering you. So, typically any upper respiratory illness, viral upper respiratory illness, is going to have you be symptomatic for about a week or so before your symptoms start getting better. And, I wouldn't expect you to have a fever with something like allergies. So if you're getting a fever, diffuse body aches, you're really kind of feeling pretty poorly, then I would err on the side of a viral illness or upper respiratory infection over allergies.
Wow. That's really interesting, because I feel like in my personal experience, sometimes you just feel so crummy and you think that you're coming down with something, and then it ends up being just a really bad day of allergies. At what point do you start to say, okay, it's been too many days, I need to be seen? Or what types of over-the-counter medications is just any allergy medicine? Does that work for anyone? Or do you need to be more specific when you have symptoms?
So generally, I like to do kind of a symptom driven recommendations. Anybody who has allergies can't go wrong with starting with a nasal steroid spray. And saline sprays or saline rinses like the neti pot. Those are two really wonderful things that you can do at home that can make a really big difference. For people who have a lot of itching of their skin, or they're prone to hives or whatnot due to allergies, then adding an oral antihistamine like a Zyrtec or a Claritin or Allegra would be a good idea as well. I'd say that, if you're sort of having to be on medications quite frequently, or you're using these medications in the way that's recommended by, the packaging, or even by a doctor who told you to use them and it's not working, then that's a reason to maybe go get them checked out further.
At what point do you stop using medications and have to go to injections to relieve allergies?
Yeah. And that's, injections are not a small thing to consider. They're generally very safe, but they do put you at risk for developing a kind of life-threatening allergic reaction while you're on them called anaphylaxis. Also a lot of time intensive, and who likes getting shots? So generally, we maximize medical therapy for patients. And for me, that means putting them on a nasal steroid spray, usually an antihistamine nasal spray, which Astepro or Astelin azolastine is an antihistamine nasal spray that just went over the counter. So it's now something that people can purchase on their own over the counter. If they're on a combination of a nasal steroid spray and the nasal antihistamine and they're still struggling, that's when I'm going to recommend that we do allergy testing and pursue some type of immunotherapy. There's a couple different types actually. So now we have the shots, but we also have sublingual drops, which are allergy drops that you deliver underneath your tongue. You don't have to go into the doctor to get them. You do them at home. My dog is on them.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Wow. Yeah, because animals get allergies too. It's funny, when I get allergies, I see my dog scratching. I'm like, oh, we both got to take our allergy pill.
Yes.
I'm allergic to whatever it is.
My dog has terrible allergies. It's karma, I guess. I don't know. But anyway. And then there's also some tablets now. So there's Grass Tech. There's Ragwatech. So these are allergy tablets that you can take if you're allergic specifically to like grass or to ragweed. These will have for dust mites. So there's a lot of different options now that didn't exist a few years ago.
Yeah.
Is everyone allergic to something? They just might not know about it.
No, not at all. I get a lot of people who come in for allergy testing and they are completely negative. It's always a big shock for them. Because their whole life they were convinced, and I explained to them, like, you have the symptoms. We're not saying that they're in your head or that you're making them up. It's just that the molecular level, it's slightly different than allergy. So
curious. Okay. So you're in an airplane, let's just say, you're traveling and everyone around you is sneezing and they're like, oh, it's just allergies. Can they spread germs through their sneezes, even if they're not quote unquote sick and it's just allergies? Should they be wearing a mask? Like for example, I'm using the plane, because you want to be respectful of, you're spreading germs anyways, you're in a closed space, but like, should people like really keep that in mind that they could still spread germs maybe?
Well, good luck, Kristen, because we saw how well wearing masks.
Yeah,
when there was
that's probably not
going.
That's probably never going to happen. But I mean, it's just like, I get some people like, oh, I'm sneezing. I'm like, you're in my car, dude. Like, stop sneezing. Oh, I'm not sick. It's just allergy. I'm like, that's still germs.
I mean, it depends on how well you know that person and their own judgment, I say. But, I think most people, they honestly think that it's allergic, and it might be. That only you can protect yourself. So like with the airplane incident, the airplane example, you can wear a mask and that will protect you against everybody else.
But you can't get infected from somebody's like sneezing from allergies, I guess is what my point is, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
No, you're not going to get, correct. Yeah.
So,
Unless they're sneezing viruses at you.
Right. Yeah, that's my point for
and
sure.
of course, we all know viruses can't be transmitted through the air. Hey, is there ever a time in North Texas where something is not going to make us allergic? Do we have is there some kind of a peace window here that our sinuses are going to be clear?
Not really. It depends on the person and what they're allergic to. Most locations in the United States take a little bit of a break for the winter. However, in Dallas, we have mountain cedar, and it's a doozy. But you also don't get to hide from allergies in the winter because there's indoor allergens. And you spend more time indoors in the winter. So if you have indoor allergens, it's year round.
Dr. Ashleigh Halderman is an allergy expert and ENT at Parkland. Doctor, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.